Hi, Vincent.
Hello. What are we streaming to? Both your YouTube channels?
Um, I've sort of changed it round so it's on Facebook, which gets deleted after a certain time, and my secondary YouTube channel. Yes,
Okay, you're still protecting your first channel?
yes, I'm trying to. I mean, I'm just trying ways of getting people from the primary channel to come over to the secondary channel, and then I thought, if I'm streaming to both channels simultaneously, what if I get a strike? So I don't know. I'm just changing things around and seeing what works. I mean, people do come in the end.
Well, these strikes are why I stopped coming to YouTube because they took down about three of my channels for nothing.
Well, I think two of them are still around, and I think it's kind of different now. The regime, they're not as strict as they were before.
Well,
I
because they
get the
lost a lot of people.
I bet. And now that Trump is president, maybe they decided to do things a different way. I don't know. It seems more tolerant now, I would say. Don't you think?
Probably. Well, it's more tolerant since Elon Musk bought X because everyone is realizing that if you just block everybody and disrupt everybody's accounts for every little thing that they say wrong, then they're going to migrate to another platform. And, X isn't perfect, but, it's a lot better than anybody else. And Facebook is dead. Nobody goes on Facebook anymore.
Hmm. So do you think you might come back to YouTube?
I don't
I
know.
mean,
I
you've
have
still
to
got
think
two of
about
your
it.
old accounts.
Yeah, I have to think about it. My StreamYard is no longer a subscription. Um, but maybe.
What do you mean your stream goes?
I no
I
longer have
mean,
my StreamYard
you still get 20.
subscription.
Well, you still get 20 free hours, and then when you run out, you go to Restream, which is what I'm doing. So
Is
it
Restream
works.
free?
Yeah, you can have the
Is
paid
Restream
version if you
free?
want.
It's free?
Yes, it's free.
What can you do with Oh, for as many hours as you
Um,
want?
yes, there is no limit as far as I know.
Mm,
So I think would be worth you doing.
Interesting.
It would be worth you coming back.
I have to say, I'm working on a project that I'm gonna have to do stuff on X and lots of spaces on X. I mean, I like the spaces on X because it attracts more people and more people watch it. And also like, you could get people it's easy to have people come up and speak.
I know, but
It's not easy to do them.
I understand, but
Excuse me.
they seem to be crazy and stupid. But oh, I don't know. But I suppose it's not
Well,
searchable.
it's the general public.
Yes, yes.
It's the general public. Not that I had horrible people come up on my channel with YouTube. I mean, I've had useless people come on my channel. Yeah. I think that's anywhere. If you're going to let people up on your channel, then you're going to start getting these problems.
Yes. I suppose YouTube is still more respectable than others, and and X is kind of, well, variable. But I mean, in terms of features and searchability and that kind of thing, YouTube. Well, I mean, they're starting to do YouTube AI, which is suggesting things you might do to get yourself more to build your channel and that kind. There's certainly more features, and
Right.
it's more interactive, and I think it's the interactivity that and the features that make YouTube still more attractive and than other. It's when you go to other channels, they don't have this, they don't have that. It's all a bit clunky. Yeah, but so yeah, I don't know what you think of my little idea of a register of penitents.
These are very time consuming. People are going to have to enter this. People are going to have to.
How is it time consuming? You just add one extra register, and then people, and then you kind of, just check that the, real people and not fake people, and and that's it. And then you maybe you send them a certificate, and they're all happy. Obviously,
Yeah, another government. It's another government bureaucracy, and I mean, what? How? What do you mean? Who's going to even admit that they did something wrong? I mean, what? Penitence for what?
well, just anything really, that used to exist before secular Quranism. Maybe you want to say sorry for being a feminist, or whatever that is now um, illegal or disapproved of or something. Just to gain status under the new regime. And then you give them a certificate, and you make them pay a small registration fee, and you offer, like, would you like to frame your certificate? Would you like to show it off to your friends at your next party? Da, da, da.
This is not. I don't think this is how most people operate. Like, if they're just going to repent, it's most people think it's between them and the universe.
Well, they can make it between them and their government, and then it becomes official. They get a certificate, and they can boast about it, and other people might think, oh, perhaps I like one of those certificates of penitence then. But it's sort of based on
Mm.
my, repentant unmarried parents and unrepentant unmarried parents. To encourage people to be penitent. And once they do it, their minds will change. It's like, yeah, I want to benefit from my penitence. I want to be raised in status rather than just shamed for, going wrong. And they'll have a feeling that, you can go wrong, but if you sincerely repent, you can actually, make a thing of it. It's part of my Jonah agenda.
Mm. Well, we'll have to see about that.
Oh, I think you could help so much. I mean, if only you would take it seriously, Vincent, and we could really start motoring. And the thing is, you wouldn't have to, change your lifestyle. And I don't certainly feel I have to, well, go and marry and pump out loads of children, because it's too late for me, right? It's sort of, yes, it might get a bit strict later after, we're dead, but, that's not our problem, is it? In the meantime,
Well, but most people care about the future and what other people are going to have to go through. And, most people are just like, well, it won't happen to me. So what do I care? You know what I mean? Most people care about the future of the human race and don't want future humans to have to deal with things that they personally would not wish to go through.
such as
Well, people, well, no
regime
fault, divorce,
change.
being whipped for,
Yes, regime change is very
well, no, just
traumatic.
yeah, well, and most people are not going to say, well, I don't want it done to me, but I don't care if it's done to my grandchildren. That's not what most people say, and that's not what comes out of most people's
Well, it depends
mouths.
on how you
That what they
frame
don't
it.
want for
It's
the
like, well, thank goodness an ancestor of us decided to take action and show penitence to do this much needed U-turn, to correct themselves, or we would, be much worse off.
okay, but if you're asking them to inflict things on their grandchildren that they wouldn't want inflicted on them, that's not going to work.
Well, we'll see. The only way to do.
But who's going to say I don't want it done to me, but I don't care if it's done to
Okay,
my
what is it?
grandchild?
What
Who's
is
going to?
it that you don't want?
Well, maybe they don't want. Maybe they don't want their grandchild being whipped for having sex outside of marriage, or not being able to get a no fault divorce, or living without interest, or maybe lots of
Okay,
things. You know what I
we
mean?
need to test
Whatever.
the idea with our, viewers and subscribers, don't we? So we need to kind of talk about it.
Well, if they're not interested in it for themselves, you always say, "Oh, but you won't have to whip people." Like, I don't want anyone to get whipped. Whether I have to do it or not is a different story. I'm not going to be just so selfish and say, like, well, at least I'm not doing the whipping, so everything's fine. I don't have to sit there and view their suffering. That's not how most people,
But it's for the
think.
greater good.
Okay, but if you don't want it done to you, you're not going to do it to your
Okay, we
grandchildren.
don't know. We don't know how people will take to it until, you treat it seriously. Skyworks, I don't know why you're saying. I didn't say that people don't care about the future of humanity. I'm saying if they did care about the future of humanity, they would correct themselves. Uh,
Well, maybe they do, but they just have a different way of going about it than you
Okay,
do.
and obviously we kind of need to put the idea on the table, right? To really test public opinion. We can't just keep it to ourselves and assume all kinds of things about the voting public. Because people don't
Okay,
really know
well,
what
let's
they
see if
think.
there. I don't. Well, this is the point about political parties. Like, if people were so gung ho about all this happening, they would start a third political party and start pushing it. You know what I mean? But nobody's doing that. Nobody had to force the anti-Masonic party to come into fruition. The people wanted it. Like, they fought for it, and there's lots of things that. If people really wanted it, they would do it themselves. Like, ending slavery. Nobody had to like motivate people. There were plenty of people that wanted to end it. And, it was just obvious that a lot of people wanted it out, and they fought for it, and they got what they wanted. So, if people really want their granddaughters being whipped for fornication, then I guess they should start organizing for it.
Well, I'm starting the ball rolling. You can test the water by talking about it. I guess that's the beginning anyway. You have to talk about it as if, well, you're serious about it.
Well, you talk about that you're serious about it all the time, and nobody has started any kind of campaign to bring about these
Well, that's
changes.
because most
If you,
people don't even they don't even want to talk about the solution. I mean, this is something that I've noticed. Nobody wants to talk about the solution. They're happy complaining and blaming, and it, I seem to be the only one with a solution. And it's either my idea or just complaining and not changing anything, or it's whatever the government prescribes. I don't see anything else on the horizon. I would have thought,
yeah, well, in the West, we don't like in the West, we don't, ooh, the government, whatever the government is, in Western societies is not treated like, ooh, the government. The government is more something that needs to be contained and not be allowed to have too much power.
okay, but I'm saying people seem complaining, but there is no talk about solutions. Maybe there are other people who have solutions, but I'm not aware of them. And I'm saying I'm asking myself, why does nobody even have solutions? I would expect other people to say, oh, I've got an idea too, and it's better than yours, Claire, or something like that. But not you know I don't even get that. So nobody in the dissident right is actually proposing a solution other than carry on voting. I find that very strange, to be honest.
Well, right now there's really nothing else to do. And why can't you try to change the system but also vote now at the same time? Why can't you do
Okay,
both?
well, I can't stop anybody from voting if they want to vote, but
Well, I know, but I mean, most people in America probably believe that voting is good enough that they're still going to do it. Most people are not going to just drop their vote and not vote and, become non entities politically.
okay, fine. So they can carry on voting.
And that's just ridiculous to these people that they get their audience not to vote. Well, then nobody's going to listen to you or take you seriously, and no politician worth their salt is going to do anything to try to help you. You did nothing to help them. You didn't donate to them. You didn't vote for them. You didn't campaign for them. So why should anyone do anything for you?
I'm saying that if I really think that voting is the problem and Washington agrees with me, then
No, he didn't agree with voting. He didn't agree with voting being a
okay, you can
problem.
still vote for, different candidates, but from the same party or different.
Okay, but right now, most people don't want to give up their vote, and most people want politicians to bend to their will, so they want to look like a voting
Okay,
bloc. Okay,
I'm
you want to look like in America, in the West, it's silly to tell your constituents not to vote because then they're just going to listen. Who's going to vote? You know who will vote? Democrats. They're not giving up their vote. The only people who are going to stop voting are a bunch of, people like you. People who think like you are the only ones who are not going to vote. And then you have no power, no. And then that's why you want a uniparty system because you just don't have it in you to start a separate party, to become a vote bank. You don't have any of this in you. And so you just want to force it on everybody instead of voting your way in like Democrats do, and they do it quite well. They're probably going to win the midterms. If not, they've won the elections so many times over where, the pendulum swung the other way. But again, that was because of voting, because, enough Republicans, maybe this time they won't. I wouldn't be surprised if Republicans have stopped voting en masse, or at least all the Groypers have.
okay. I don't know, but I have to take a position, and obviously there will be people who want to vote, and they will vote. We'll see what happens. We'll see if anything much changes.
Well, I mean, a change from a Republican administration to a Democratic administration does change things.
Really, you'll still have. Well, I think you will have much the same policies, starting another war, maybe more vaccines, and maybe more crime and disorder.
Claire, hold on one second. What? Um, there's differences, and if you don't like it, then start a third party and get lots of, like the Whig Party, or you can just, you can carry a state. A whole state can change, and its politics can change, and it can have, certain kinds of senators, and you can start in a state. The states are kind of like testing grounds for new ideas.
Okay, you know, carry on voting. I can't stop anyone. I'm just saying it doesn't help, and Washington agrees with me, and then Americans should show
No, he didn't agree that voting didn't work. He didn't agree that voting doesn't work. He never said
Well, he
that.
said political parties will be the end of you.
Okay, well, and we had political parties since the day we started, so and it hasn't ended
Well,
us. We've
you're
been going for
limping
200.
along.
Okay, we've been going for 200 years
Okay, and it
and
looks
strong
like
on these.
you're gonna do better
Okay, so why did it work for 200 years and then all of a sudden it's not working?
because there are limits to even corruption and incompetence. And when you take too
Okay,
many
so
chances,
for 200 years it was totally fine, and then all of a sudden it's a bad
well,
thing.
your luck runs out.
It made us the greatest country on earth. It made the people. It created a system that people wanted to move here and live here and stay here.
And now there's a
And
brain
you're
drain.
just no, it's not a brain drain. Everyone's moving. All the people who have their degrees are moving
Didn't you
here.
read my? Did I'm sure.
Yeah, but that's not because the intelligentsia of America are leaving. It said it was another reason. I forget what it was. It wasn't because people are voting with their feet and leaving America. Where are they going?
They're staying where they are, or going somewhere else, I guess. Okay, I will
Okay,
read
well,
because it's
it's
quite a
this.
recent. It's a recent. Um, well, anyway, it's AI overview. As of early 2026, evidence suggests that the United States is experiencing a significant self-inflicted academic and scientific brain drain, driven by federal funding cuts to research, political pressure on universities, and stricter immigration policies. 75% of surveyed US-based scientists have considered leaving the country, with many eyeing opportunities in Europe or Canada. Key aspects of the 2026 brain drain.
Yeah, to Europe or Canada. They don't want to move to China or anything like that. Yeah, they're going to move to another system that's very similar to ours. And this has nothing to do. They're complaining about funding. It has to do with funding. It's not because they dislike the government or the government, or the governmental system. It's just that the government's not funding them. So, that's different. And of course they want to go to Europe or Canada. They don't want to go to China.
Well, there are quite a few academics in China.
Okay, well, that just said people are mostly looking to go to Europe or Canada, Western nations that have political parties.
Is the US suffering from a brain drain to China? Yes. This is AI overview. The United States has experienced significant reverse brain drain of high-level scientific and academic talent to China. Between 2010 and 2021, nearly 2,000 Chinese-born scientists left the US, a trend that accelerated after 2018 due to
Yeah,
restrictive
Chinese born
policies.
people who were born in China. This is Chinese born Chinese people that came here to get their education and then they returned to China. These are not American born white people going to
Well,
China.
I guess that's because they don't speak Chinese. But then because
Well, I mean, your theory that there's, that white Americans just want to get the fuck out of America because it has a one-party system. No, they want to go to another country with a two-party system. They want to go to Europe. They want to go to Canada, Australia. They want something very similar. They don't really want to leave the West. They don't want to leave the West. They want to stay in the West. Maybe America's not funding them enough, and I'm sure they just want to go to another country that has a two-party
I don't
system.
think that they care about whether how many parties a country has. They just want a better
Well,
job.
they want something similar to the United States. They don't want to go far afield and totally escape the West.
Shall I continue reading the rest of it?
Yeah, sure, but not if it's about Chinese born people that came here for college and then went back. That's not that's not and only 2,000 of them in what, 15 years?
20,000.
Oh, 20,000.
Yes.
Well, still, I mean, like these are people that were, that came here for education. Lots of people come here for education and return to their home country. Maybe they don't like it here. They grew up in a different system and they don't really like America, or maybe they don't like its lack of socialism or some, of other things that they just don't enjoy about it. But, and the only ones that are returning back to China are Chinese born people that probably speak the language. It's easier for them. Now they have Western credentials. They can get really good jobs in China, you know. So, but most people want to escape and live in the West. That's where most people want to come, is the West.
Okay, this is AI overview again. Well, there's no single exact statistic for the number of US citizens currently in academia in China as of mid 2026. Data indicates a significant and growing presence of US based academics moving to China, moving to Chinese institutions despite increased geopolitical tensions. Key findings on US academics in China. Rising job applications. Job applications from US based academics to Hong Kong institutions surged by 55%
Hong
in
Kong, Hong
2025.
Kong. Is Hong Kong, wait, is Hong Kong China
Yes,
now? Did they become China?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, but don't they still have their own separate
Yes.
system? Okay, well, I don't want to hear about Hong Kong. I want to hear about going. I want to hear about a white person born in America, went to school in America, and wants to go live in rural China. Like, where are those people? Because people want to live in rural America. Everyone, people are fleeing the cities and moving into rural America. There is no, let's go move to rural China and become a doctor there. That would be, that probably is a very terrible lifestyle.
Okay. Well, I'm sure lots of
I mean, haven't you seen the videos of all these Chinese people living in dumps and hovels together, like 50 people with bunk beds, dirt and shit all over the floor? Like, that doesn't happen in America. No videos of that come out of America. You don't go into rural America and find a warehouse full of bunk beds and people living in shit and urine and garbage. It just doesn't happen.
Well, I'm sure there will be, undocumented migrants and, people with
Yeah, no,
pensions
no American
and
white said no. Nowhere I lived in many rural Americas, there was no factory building with bunk beds in it with people living in garbage. There just
okay, well,
wasn't. Everyone had their own house, and the houses were probably much nicer than anything you get in China. And probably, even our trailers were probably nice and heated and new and gleaming and nice carpeting, and even trailers up in the country are pretty nice. You can get a trailer and live pretty okay in the country,
mhm.
you know. And being an American country doctor is quite pleasant. They need them. They're in demand. You have a beautiful scenery. You have low crime. You know what I mean? The only thing you don't have is major bustling city. But if you're not the type of person that wants a major bustling city, there's nothing wrong with living in the countryside of America. You're not going to starve. You're not going to live in a hovel. You can get a very nice, clean, brand new home in the forest if you want. And this is what people want. You know what I mean? I dare you to show me one area in rural America where you see a bunch of white people living in a factory full of bunk beds and garbage everywhere. Where does that even
Well, because
happen
they
here?
don't work in factories.
No, okay, well, but nobody, we just don't live like that
Okay,
here.
I mean, I'm just looking at the
And
figures, right? And obviously there is a bit
okay,
of
and how
problem.
and were these American born academics, or were they Chinese
I
academics,
don't
like we
know. I
said
mean,
before, that
when I
came here
try
for
to read
education?
anything,
Okay, well,
people
that
start getting
matters.
angry and
That
shouting me
matters.
down.
It matters whether or not the last one that we read said that 20,000 people came here for education and then went back to China. First of all, a lot of people do that. Not just Chinese. A lot of people go back to their home country because now they have Western credentials and they can get really good jobs in their former countries and live like wealthy people. You know what I mean? Even if they could probably almost live wealthier. I mean, maybe they won't have as nice surroundings, but maybe they can get a bigger house in Pakistan than they can in America, especially if they've worked here for a while and they've saved some money. People do that all the time. They buy vacation homes in the country that they came from, or they move back because they were able to build a big house. That happens in Britain too with those Pakistanis. They come to America, they build their wealth, and then they go back to Pakistan and they can have a mansion and Ferraris and all this kind of stuff while they're surrounded by garbage. You know what I mean? I mean, they wanted to leave their country and they went back, but there are no British people moving to rural Pakistan. It's just there's not a mass migration wave of white people out of Britain to get into Pakistan, to get into China, into India, into Russia, into Saudi Arabia. It's just not happening. And the pictures that you see coming out of these countries, there's no equivalent in America. There's no equivalent of what you see in rural China to America. No equivalent.
Well, we're not talking about
Our
the
poor our
conditions of rural China. We're talking about, statistics, of
Yeah, it's statistics that a bunch of people came here for school and went back. That's not uncommon. You're not talking about American born, even not just white, Latinos, Indians. Vivek Ramaswamy is not like, I got to get out of here and get to China. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not
Well, Vivek
happening.
wouldn't do that because he has a political career to pursue.
Yeah, well, most people have more to pursue here in America than they do in, a smoggy city in China. We're more developed, we're more clean, we have a cleaner country, we're not as polluted
So you didn't see
because,
any of the
we actually
videos I
care about
sent
the environment.
you
Of
of
what?
China on X?
Yeah, I'm sure there's nice parts of China, but there's also really undeveloped areas of China. We have no undeveloped areas in America. I've never been anywhere in America where I was like, oh God, there's no highways, there's garbage everywhere. People are living in bunk beds and factories full of garbage. Like, it's just never happened. There's no doctors, you know, you could go up into the mountains in America. You can have a doctor. There's a doctor there. You could probably find a lawyer. I mean, and you can find a nice little house. I mean, some of them are dilapidated and a little bit run down, but it's a lot nicer than what you see. People living in bunk beds full of garbage. You know what I mean? You just don't. It's a no-brainer. Everyone wants to be in the West. Everyone emigrates to the
Well, I've
West,
just
and
quoted
you're
you
trying to make this.
statistics that,
Yeah, of 20,000 Chinese-born people that went back to China, that doesn't count.
it's not just Chinese people. I mean, okay. So it seems.
Okay, well, that's what it said. It said 20,000 Chinese-born people who came here for school went back to China. It didn't say like American. Ask how many American-born academics are moving to China. Not somebody. They have to be American-born. How many American-born academics move to China? Go and ask it. How many American-born academics move to China?
Neil Ferguson, he was a visiting lecturer. John
Okay, you're
Dewey
born.
was an American philosopher. I think he's still there. Is John Dewey still in China? American philosopher. China. Oh, he's come back.
Okay, he's come back. But okay, you gave me, two people. Ask what the percentage is. What percentage of American-born academics move to China? I'm sure it's like 1 or 2%, and or less than that.
Well, I mean,
And then
obviously,
ask how many academics come here from China. Think about that.
well,
How many come
maybe you
here?
don't like them, and so they
Well, the
can't
point is they
come.
want to live here. There's plenty of Chinese academics in the West that have moved here and are quite happy to be here and don't want to go back to China. And if China is so great, why do all the billionaires have their children here through surrogacy? That Chinese billionaire with 26 children here in America, and Trump is trying to stop the Chinese surrogacy trade in America. Why don't they have 26 children in China if it's so great? Why do they want to come? Why do billionaires have children in America if America is such a horrible place?
Well, if you have loads of money, you can have children anywhere.
Okay, but why America? Why not have them in China so that
We're
they're
talking
Chinese
about
citizenship?
trends, right? We're talking about
Yeah, I know.
trends.
Well, how many billionaires have 26 children in
And
China from the
we're talking
West?
about trends. So, you talk about some billionaire with 26 children. I
Okay,
mean,
but it's an industry. Billionaires. Trump himself said it. We don't want billionaires coming here and having IVF and having children here.
did he
That's
say
what Trump.
that?
Trump. Yes, Trump points. He's the one who said that man had 26 billion, not 26 billion, 26 children through surrogacy in America. He said we're going to stop birth tourism. Birth tourism. He said we want to stop people coming here on a plane when they're 8 months pregnant and giving birth here.
So is that what
Nobody in
happened?
America.
Tell me a bit about this guy, the Chinese
Look him
guy.
up. Write it. Right. Look him up. Right. Trump says billionaire who has 26 children in America is bad or something like that. There's a Chinese billionaire who has 26 children in America. Nobody in America gets on a plane 8 months pregnant and goes to China so that their child can be a Chinese citizen. Nobody does that. Nobody, no white man in the West has 26 children in China because he wanted them to be Chinese citizens.
Well, because maybe it's easier to do that in America than in China.
No, well, most people don't want. Most white men in the West don't want to go to China and have their children not have American citizenship and grow up in China. That's
Well,
not,
surrogacy is
it's the
illegal in China. That's why you
okay.
don't
Well,
have.
you could still get people pregnant. I mean, you could send your wife over there. You could send your wife over there to have her baby. Who does that? What working class American? Oh, honey, go to China
It's
to
not.
drop the baby.
Obviously, working class people don't do that kind of thing.
Or even intellectual. How many college professors tell their white wife to go over to China to give birth to the baby there, so it's not an American citizen? Oh, thank God it's not born in America. Thank God it's born in China. Don't want it to have an American passport. Certainly not. How many people say that?
Well, there is such a
Other
thing
countries
as
don't have
passport
birth tourism.
shopping.
How many immigration issues they have?
Huh? What? What?
There is such a thing as passport shopping,
Okay,
citizenship
well, I
shopping.
mean, most people shop for Western citizenship. You know what I
I'm
mean?
just
Show
saying
me
that the
one.
things
Show me
are
one
changing.
white bill. Show me one white billionaire who sent his wife to
Yeah,
China to
but
give
of
birth
course they
there.
wouldn't do that because China doesn't allow any Tom, Dick, and Harry to, do this sort of thing.
Well, she could go there. She could go there on a visa and give
Okay,
birth. Why don't they have a
these
visa?
people will not
They
make
don't
a
have birth tour. Why don't they? Why don't they have a birth tourism in China? Why is there no birth tourism?
well because surrogacy is illegal. That's why the Chinese.
No, you could no. People do it here in America, not surrogacy. Just somebody gets on a plane at 8 months pregnant and wants to drop the baby here in America, so it has citizenship.
Isn't that called
Trump was
chain
talking about this.
migration or anchor children or
No, it's not
something
called
like
chain
that?
anchor baby, but you're still an American citizen if you're born in this country. And you're still at this moment. It hasn't changed yet. You're an American citizen. So women from India or Mexico or China or Russia or some other place that is not as economically developed as us, they come here on a visa, even if it's a 6 month visa. As long as if you're 4 months pregnant, maybe you're not fully showing. If you're 4 or 5 months pregnant, and you get here on a tourist visa for 6 months or anything, you can give birth to your baby here. I mean, Trump was complaining about this. People are complaining about birth tourism in America, and that's why they're trying to get rid of the whatever amendment was. They're trying to change the Constitution so that there is no birthright citizenship, and that if your parents aren't from this country, then you're not a citizen, even if you're born here. They're trying to change it. I don't agree with that, but they're trying to change it because this is a really big problem.
Mhm. Well, this is obviously not something anybody can do. The billionaire case.
Okay, yeah, well, we're talking about the intellectuals and the wealthy class. And, well, what's to stop someone who's just from just minimum median income in their home country getting a tourist visa to America, coming here and giving birth? What's
I
to stop
suppose you could
them?
do that, and it'll be up to your.
Yeah, all you need to do is a flight. Go ahead.
Obviously these things happen, and there's an established practice of doing this sort of thing by people, and they probably do it because it's easier to do it in the West than in other countries, right?
Well, even if it's not surrogacy, they can still come here and give birth. And there's not, somebody, academics working at UCLA don't send their wives anywhere to give birth other than America. Nobody in America gets on a plane to relinquish their child's American citizenship. Who would do
Well,
that? Who wants an anchor baby in China? You know what I mean? Like, oh, we need to get to China to have our baby, so at least we'll be, into the system and they can't throw us out of the country.
well, it might happen. It might start
Yeah, how
happening.
often?
Okay, I mean, okay.
Is China complain
I
about
don't
it?
know.
And wait,
I
is
don't
China is
know.
China's
I don't
is
know.
okay? Well, is China because Trump is complaining
Yeah,
about
but
it?
then he complains
Trump is
about lots of
complaining.
things for all kinds of
Okay,
political
well, the
reasons.
West is the West is complaining about a bunch of Chinese billionaires coming here and having too many children. I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
but
and just thinking they can.
yeah, I mean that there's a wave of Chinese billionaires coming to you know that this is a blip, not even a blip. It's just an unusual case. There's
Okay,
no
no, okay, but
wave of
there are
Chinese
other. Well, he
billionaires
wasn't
coming
the
out.
only one. He wasn't the only one. No, there's a problem with Asian billionaires having their children in America through
I think it was
surrogacy. There
Trump
is a
doing his
problem with
usual
this.
thing about which is basically shaking his fist at foreigners. Okay,
Well, they're trying to take away their birthright citizenship. It's more than shaking their
well,
fist. Trump
okay,
is
so
promoting. They're trying
promoting
to get it through the Supreme
xenophobia.
Court now.
Okay, fine. We can look at something more objective, such as GDP.
So you have no problem. You have no problem with people just coming into America and doing birth tourism here and anchor babies.
It's up to you guys to sort that problem out. Obviously, America has more of a problem about that than any other country, right? Of course, America has, because that's basically his manifesto, Trump's manifesto since 2016, which is about immigration. So at the moment, the United States holds the world's largest economy in nominal GDP, projected at roughly 13.8 to 32.4 trillion, with China second at roughly 20.6 and 20.8 trillion. However, China is the largest economy by purchasing power parity, PPP, with an estimated 43.5 to 44.3 trillion compared to the US 31.8 trillion, reflecting higher relative purchasing power.
Okay, with all their purchasing power, they don't have a birth tourism problem. It's just nobody's complaining about Chinese birth tourism. I mean, it's not a national question in China. It's a national question in America. They want to change the whole legal system so that you can't do it anymore. Is how often it's
Well, I
happening.
think America should ban it, like China. So I'm glad that America is following in China's footsteps on the legality
It's
of
not banning.
surrogacy.
No, it's
But you
not.
support surrogacy, don't you?
No, I
Don't
don't.
you? I thought you did.
No.
I thought
Well,
you
what do you
said that
mean
you support
surrogacy?
all kinds of
I don't believe.
artificial.
No, I don't. I don't believe the mother just artificial wombs is different. I don't just believe the mother should just give away the baby and have nothing to do with it. I don't believe that.
Well,
I don't
maybe
think that's good.
maybe the woman is doing it for the money.
Okay, well, I don't think that's
Maybe
a
she
very,
wants to
I
get
wouldn't.
rid of it.
Okay, well, I wouldn't want a woman who just wants to give away her babies to be the mother of my child.
Well, you you might not have a choice if you really want. I mean, why
I
just
don't.
marry her then?
No, well, I mean, there are gay men who I knew a gay man. He had a child with a woman. He was gay, and I guess he did artificial insemination, and he would, raise the child with her, but he didn't take the child away from her. He didn't take the child away from her, and that's probably what I would do. I would not take the child away from its mother. You have to know who your mother is. Imagine just like, oh, mommy just gave you up and you're never going to see her again. Like think about adopted children want to know who their parents are. My cousin was adopted and she found me because she was searching for her parents. Adoptees search for their parents all the time. If you just if you just give children up, children should know who their mother is, their personality, their health, their laugh, their gait, everything. You should, because that's how you know yourself. Okay, like it does teach you a lot about yourself. So, it's very good to know who your mother is. So no, I wouldn't
And your
separate
father,
a child from its
and your
mother.
father, and
What?
your father. You have two
Well,
parents.
but yes, I know, but you would have a father, but you would have both your parents. But no, I don't believe in gay men just going and having children and the woman gives it up and then they both raise it together. Like, I'm not, no, not like that. I mean, you can have a blended family, you know what I mean? But like the mom shouldn't be disappeared.
Right. So did you
Uh, and then what kind of woman just is able to just give up what's been in her stomach for night, her own DNA, her
a
own flesh
rent
and
a
blood,
womb
just to,
woman?
okay, well, you know, I don't think that that's very, I don't think that that's very good.
Well, that's why
And I
you should
wouldn't.
support the stability of married parenting, but you don't.
No, well, I believe in, no, I know. I believe in doing it alternative ways, but not separating children from parents. I don't believe in doing that.
Okay, so you should support married parenting then. I mean, there's no way around
No,
it.
what I can. Okay, nobody's stopping. Just because my friend had a woman with a baby, that doesn't, a baby with a woman doesn't mean that two straight couples, a straight couple can't marry together. And what stops? Okay, a gay man had a child with a woman. What? How does that stop a man and a woman from marrying, and having children? How does that stop them?
Well, it's going to give the kids some issues, right? How come I have two dads? How
No,
come I have two mums? Who's my
no, I just said you would have a mother and a father. You don't have two moms or two dads. There's dad's boyfriend or husband, but not two dads. And you would live with your mom. You would have your father, and hopefully, but that
I'm
doesn't
sorry,
stop a
what's a
man and a
domestic
woman.
arrangement you were trying to describe?
Okay, well, I guess you can share the child, you can live near each other. I don't know what his arrangement. I think he lived right near her and he would see the child every day. And, it was just, and I mean, I don't know the child as an adult. It's probably an adult now. It has to be an adult now.
Is it messed up
But
in the head though?
um well, I didn't meet it when it was an adult. I just knew it was there when it was a baby. I knew he was a professor out of college and he had the money to support a woman, and that's what he did.
Well, I think it should be
And that's
illegal
not
to do
stopping.
that.
How are you going to stop two people from procreating together? How are you
Just
going to
make it a
stop that?
crime to be an unmarried parent, having unlicensed.
Okay, well, that's not going to happen anytime soon, and we're not stopping. Okay, a gay college professor had a baby. How is that stopping you from having children? How?
It's the idea
It's
of
not.
treating these arrangements as legal. That will.
No, okay, well, that's not going to, okay, it's not about legal. It's about stopping other people from becoming married parents.
Yeah, you have
Nobody
to
is getting in the
privilege.
way of
You have to
anyone.
privilege married parents to encourage people to want to do it. If you say,
Okay, well, if
any
other,
time
okay,
you're
well,
in
there's
a
other
marriage
ways to
or
do,
an alternative arrangement,
there's obviously other ways to do it. There's
yeah, but
obviously other ways to do it. So if
it's
they,
not gonna end well, is it?
well, you don't know. You've never studied these
You
things. You have
haven't
no
studied them
statistics.
either.
How do you, okay, well, how do
You
you
just
know?
said it's
First of
not
all, I
gonna
don't
end
know
well.
this child as an adult. Okay, well, yeah, but I
These
mean,
people have
so okay, so you see, you
you.
have a mom, you have a dad, you have a mom, you have a dad. I don't see what the problem is. I don't see what the problem is.
Well, I think you refuse to see what the problem is, and you already know that when a gay couple.
No, I don't. Well, I was okay. My father didn't live in my house constantly. There's lots of fathers who I know a father who only sees his children every 6 weeks because he has to work out of the
Yeah,
house.
well, at least he's
He's not a
married
bad father.
to the mother.
Okay, but that I'm just saying that you could be a good father even if you only can see them on weekends or whatever. Plenty of
Absent
fathers do that.
father.
My stepfather's father was a trucker, and he was hardly ever home. He was a trucker that almost never was at home. What, is he a bad father because he
Well,
had to work out of the
did he have other
house?
children?
Yes, he
And how did they
did.
turn out?
Well, so I don't know. I mean, they all have jobs and houses and stuff. I mean, then I don't know if they're like doctors and lawyers, but they're not bums. They're not in the street. They have houses.
Okay, well, they live in houses. That's nice. So are you in touch
Yeah,
with them?
okay. So I mean,
With your,
no, I'm not. But my half brother and sister are. and they go and visit them, and they used to go visit them in Ireland. They are obviously wealthy enough to have their own houses, put together enough to have jobs and houses. They weren't all messed up. And a lot of people in Ireland lived like that. A lot of, Irishmen had to go work in other areas or had to move to England to get work and had to leave their families behind in Ireland. It was very common in those days. Ireland is much more economically advanced now, but when my stepfather was a child, Ireland was still pretty, you know, there was still a lot of poverty in Ireland.
Mhm.
And nobody questions weekend fathers who work out of the house. Nobody questions that. You know what I mean? But as soon as, you're seeing your children 3 or 4 times a week, but you're gay, all of a sudden it's a bad thing. But, daddy's allowed to work out of the house as much as he wants.
Have you met Joey?
And pay as little attention to his children as possible. I mean, lots of fathers didn't want their children. Nobody asked them to have them. They never really wanted them. And then they just ignore them. At least the gay man went out of his way to have a child. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't like, oh God, I don't want children. Oh fuck, here comes one. No, they actually went out of their way to work really hard to have a baby. Of course they're going to pay attention to it. This is not some straight man who just wanted a wife and wanted no children, and then he got them anyway, and he's just dealing with it. He doesn't like being around them. He doesn't like training them. They're annoying to him. He's nasty to them. You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to happen if you worked really hard to have your child. There's a difference between a purposeful child and an accident you wish never happened. Those are two very different things. And heterosexuals have plenty of children they never asked for, never wanted, and then they tell, oh, I'm just dealing with you. I didn't want you. Well, if you don't want children, use birth control or don't have sex. Use birth control. You don't want children. Use birth control.
Well, I suppose there will be heterosexuals who don't want to be lectured about their breeding and sexual morality.
Oh, so what do you mean not be lectured? So it's okay to accidentally have babies you don't want? That's okay.
That's a
That you never
isn't it?
even so you think that it's okay to just breed children you never wanted and you wish you didn't have?
If you're married, you're supposed to have at least one.
Okay, well, what if you don't want any and one comes out anyway and then you're upset about it?
I guess you'll have to deal with it.
Like those stupid videos that I show you where the mother comes up to the husband with her positive her positive pregnancy test, and he's all, broken into pieces and upset. What kind of fucking video is that to post online? Like, what? Who does that with their children? Mommy shows you that she's pregnant and you have a mental breakdown? That's not good.
Well, I wonder
What if
who's
your child saw
promoting this
that?
kind of video.
Well, the parents, they video themselves. The parents themselves, they're posting this they think it's funny that the father's all bent out of his shape that they're having another baby. They think this is funny. They think this is like, to them, this is just normal. Oh shit, we're having a baby. A gay man, oh my God, he had to work so hard to get that baby. He had to pay for it. He had to find a woman that would agree to it. He had to, all these different kinds of things. He didn't even have sex with her. They had to go through this whole rigmarole to get this baby. And, that's supposed to be inferior to, mommy and daddy never wanted you. We're just dealing with you. Like, that's the alternative. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know there's straight parents that wanted to have their children. I know that there are good straight parents out there that, planned their children and actually wanted them. Or when they did get pregnant, didn't make videos of them being exasperated and depressed. I know it does happen, but a lot of times it happens in the other direction where they never planned it, never wanted it. And then they're burdened with this child they never asked for. You don't want children, use birth control. So, yeah, you should lecture people who don't want children and are having them anyway. They should be shamed. You don't tell your children you don't want them. I never wanted you, and now I have to deal with it. That's not how you raise children. A gay man could never say that to a child. I never wanted you.
Well, a gay man
It
would be
wasn't an
most unlikely
accident.
to have children.
Well, they have them now, and I'm sure that, I know my friend never told his baby, I never wanted you. You had to work really hard to get that baby. He has to work real hard.
Are you in touch with this guy?
Not right now. I mean, I saw him a few years ago, but I didn't discuss his baby with him at that time.
Why not?
So it was a different time. I met him I met him before he had the baby. And then I met him a few years again later, and he had the
Mhm.
baby. And then I met him a few years later again. I used to hang out with him, but then I started hanging out with him a few years later again. And the topic of conversation was different. And this was a couple years ago. This was about 11 years ago that I saw him last. So the baby was probably like 15 the last time I saw him. So it must be in its 20s
And
now.
you never
And
asked him once how his child was, his son.
well, I kind of forgot. I mean, that just wasn't the topic. We were doing other things at the time. I knew he had a baby, but I mean, maybe I might have asked, "How's your baby?" But I didn't drill him. What's its grade point average? What is it doing? Is it on drugs? I didn't ask him all these personal questions about his child. That's not appropriate. Usually people don't want to be. I'm not a stranger. I knew him, but I mean, maybe I wasn't his best friend, but I would see him on handfuls of occasion every few years. But most people don't want you like asking deep, penetrating questions about their
Yeah, I mean,
children.
you said, how's the son? What was his name?
Yeah, no, but I didn't ask his grade point average or if he was in jail or anything like that.
You didn't even
I
ask
might
him
have asked, "How's your
about
baby?"
his son.
Well, I did. I mean, I might have been like, "How's your baby?" or "How's your son?" And I'm sure he said, "Oh, good." But I wasn't. No, I didn't get into like pen. It would look weird if I started being
So
like,
who's looking
"Oh, is it
after
doing good in school?"
this gay man's son?
Who is the mother and the gay man were looking after the
Well, they live
child?
together.
No, but they both looked after the child.
So the baby would be what? Being looked after by the mother and the father in different households from the
I think
beginning.
so.
Hmm.
I mean, I didn't ask all his arrangements. I know he didn't live with her, but I know he would go see the baby.
Mm. Well, do you think you might see?
Just like a father who works out of the house, and he didn't regret it at the time. He didn't seem to be like a stereotypical straight man, like, "Oh fuck, my kids are annoying me." You know what I mean? That I never even wanted, and now they're asking to go to college. I'm not paying for that shit. He wasn't like that. He wasn't all bitter and angry that he had a baby.
So how did he find that woman?
I don't know. I didn't ask. All I know is that he found a woman that was willing to have children with him, and there's plenty of women that are willing to do it.
What, for a
And
price?
I don't think he really paid her like that. I think that he might have taken care of her, but not like, "Oh, just I'm going to give you $10,000 to have my baby." It was a little bit more of a arrangement than all
Hmm.
that, and I'm sure the baby turned out as just as fine as any other baby. I mean, there would have to be massive studies on this, but you know what I mean?
Do
I'm
you
sure
think you
his
might
baby, he
see him
was a
again?
professor. I don't know. He was a professor. He was a professional man. He was from Russia. And this is what he did.
Hmm.
And I thought it was really cool at the time. I wasn't as deep into all this stuff as I was back then. I met him when I was like 19, and I'm 42 now. So I've known him for 24 years, and I don't talk to him like all the time. I just talk to him every, few years. Like, I'll see him a bunch of times every few
Hmm.
years. And no, I didn't get intensely into what his baby's lifestyle was like, because that would just be awkward, and he would wonder why I was so interested.
Do you have his contact details?
I don't know. I would have to look. I have his cell phone number.
Does he live in the same state as you?
No, he lives in New York. At least the last time I checked, he
Oh,
does.
not too far then.
He's a professor. He's a professor in New York
Hmm.
City.
Do you go to New York much?
Yeah, every once in a while.
Hmm. Well, now that you have an interest in these things, you could give him a call and see how he is, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to like drill him on what's going on with his
No, you don't have
child.
to drill
You
him.
know,
It's
I
like, how's your kid? Blah blah blah.
yeah, well, he's probably just going to say, "Oh, it's fine, it's in college or whatever." But I don't. I'm not gonna, oh, what's his grade point average? You know what I mean? I don't know. I might have a job by now, and I mean, he was a really,
I would have
he
thought
was
you'd
a
be
professor. He
interested
wasn't.
after all the things you've been saying about, gay parenting.
Well, I mean, it's just at the last time that I saw him, that wasn't the topic of conversation. There were other things that were going on, and I was trying to accomplish something, and it just wasn't focused on that. And we had other.
Other things to do. Mhm. Is he your only
Yeah,
contact with who's a gay parent?
my only contact, but I know other people that know gay
Hmm.
parents.
Well, maybe you could be doing a bit more research on the subject, to support your idea.
Well, I mean, I don't have access. I'm not like some university professor that can start some kind of like poll or something like that.
Well, I mean, it's obviously only anecdotal at this stage, but surely
Yeah,
you would
everything is
want
anecdotal
to,
when it's small.
you know, investigate.
Well, there's better ways than doing it than calling up some random person and asking how their children are doing in life. Like, it's just going to be a little bit weird. I mean, I wouldn't spend more than a minute or 30 seconds talking about someone's child. I'd ask how they were. Are they healthy? Are they in college? Do they have a job? Blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get like, creepy about it.
Well, not even with your, projects.
No, that would be inappropriate to ask too penetrating of a question about someone's
Mm.
child. That would, I don't ask like penetrating questions about people's lives when I meet them, because I don't want people asking me like, especially if I don't know them very well, nobody wants, and especially with children, and especially if the child is young, you don't want to be showing too much interest in someone's, child.
Well, I mean, the child is young. That there's really not that much to be saying. But yeah, it's just sort of in passing. How's the wife and kids, and.
Yeah, I mean, I ask questions like that, but not, you know, what's their salary, you know, I don't ask those, are they on drugs? I would never ask someone if their child was on drugs, unless it was like my like sister's child or something like that.
Why your sister? Huh.
Well, because I'm close to her, and that would be my nephew, and so there's some kind of reason for me to be. Yeah, I'm allowed to ask my sister if her child is on drugs. She's my sister. There's nothing. She's not going to look at me like I have three
Well, I think
heads.
it's
I
probably a
grew up in the
bit
same house.
offensive, for a parent to be asked if their kid's on drugs.
Well, I mean, but it's my sister. I wouldn't ask some random person. But yeah, my sister who I'm close to, yes, I would ask her if her child was on drugs.
Hmm. Did you say you could do the register of penitence thing, or have you? Um,
What do you mean do it?
oh,
What are you talking about? We
you
talked
had
about
the,
it.
whatever information you needed for the, questions to be asked of Grok.
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to be asking Grok questions about
Oh,
this.
right. Okay. Then, yeah, no problem. I mean, it's just an idea really about how it could. I suppose I could do that myself. But I thought you had the, you know,
Yeah. Anyway,
all the other documents and you know, on your file or something.
oh, you mean for the Secular Quranist
Yeah.
blog? Okay, we could do that another time because I have to go now. We've been going for an
Mhm.
hour, so I gave you a solid hour.
Okay.
So let's talk soon,
All
okay?
right. Thank you, Vincent.
Okay.
Take care. Bye.
Yep. Bye.